All right, good afternoon, class. Our project was on terrorism policies around the world. My name's Chloe.
I'm Sabrina. I'm Ariella.
I'm Davis.
So our question was, are there effective policies to minimize the risk of terrorism attacks in the United States, France, Israel, and the United Kingdom? Given that the growing number of terrorist attacks are growing, the number of counter-terrorist organizations and policies have increased around the world. In the modern-day era, terror organizations use religious concepts to motivate their actions to attack countries, causing violence and terror. Countries like the United Kingdom, France, the United States, and Israel have taken action and have created policies to minimize the amount of terrorist attacks occurring each year. Prior to 9/11, there has been limited federal security requirements existing for cargo and baggage screening. However, due to the establishment of the Transportation Security Administration in November 19, 2001, in wake of the 9/11 attack, every day the TSA screens 100% of all checked and carry-on baggage for explosives. The TSA accelerated new technologies to detect next generation of threats in order to minimize the risk of terrorist attacks occurring in the United States. An example of these tactics are advanced imaging technology units, explosive detection systems, explosive trace detection units, advanced technology X-ray systems, bottle liquid scanners. The Department of Homeland Security established advanced passenger information and passenger name record data to identify high-risk travelers. The DHS requires airlines flying to the U.S. to provide advanced passenger information. The PNR uses data prior to departure. According to the Department of Homeland Security, in 2008 and 2009, PNR helped U.S. identify individuals with potential ties to terrorism in more than 3,000 cases. Today, the United States has 51,000 transportation security officers. Transportation security inspectors and behavior detection officers serve on the front lines in more than 450 U.S. airports. The United States has been successful with the establishment of high airport security in order to minimize the risk of terrorist attacks.
So France has done many things to help lower the risk of terrorism, and one of the biggest things they've done is put the French Patriot Act in place. And this was passed in 2014 in November, and it allows for the government to give out travel bans to suspects, and also allows the government to censor websites that promote terrorism or have like extremist promotions on there. And since the French Patriot Act has been in place, there have been 6 suspended passports in 2015 when there were a lot of the terrorist attacks happening in France. And also the first website was censored in March of 2015. The second thing that France has tried to do to help lower terrorism is change around the prison system. And so in 2008, there was a study done by the France prison, and they found that 60 to 70% of the prison population was Muslim. But in total, the Muslim population in France in 2008 was only 12%, so there's a lot of Muslims in the prison system. So France tried to isolate the suspects in the jail from the rest of the population in the jail so that they would have less opportunities to give like extremist ideas and offer terrorism plans. But the same prison, the French prison, found out that only deepened the problem within the isolated group, because then they had more time together to like build plans and more ideas. So another thing that France has tried to do is just move them out of that prison and keep moving them around so that they don't grow relationships with other inmates. But that didn't work because from a inmate that had been moved around in 2016, two guards got killed by an inmate because he was stabbed by like a makeshift knife. And so this is not a good strategy that France has tried to use to lower terrorism.
The UK policy has about 3 major policies, the main one being contest and 2 sub-policies being prevent and channel programs. The catalyst events for creating these UK policies would be domestic terrorism from the Irish Republican Army and international terrorism from the Islamic State. contest, the purpose of contest was its first counterterrorism strategies that included 4 strategies: pursue, protect, and to reduce the risk of terrorism. And I believe that this one was the most effective of the 3 that I'm about to speak about, because most of the citizens of the UK were very willing to approach this policy and accept what they were trying to do in their efforts. The PREVENT program happened after the London bombings in 2005, and Osama bin Laden, which many of you know as the leader of Al-Qaeda, created this terrorist attack, and it seeks to limit the draw of violent extremism in Britain by investing in a community-driven approach largely aimed at the British Muslim community. This PREVENT program was not very successful because many citizens found that it was targeting young Muslims, and overall it was creating extremism versus the opposite of trying to lower the risk of terrorism. The Channel program was to provide intervention and support to people of any religion and ethnicity that are at risk for being recruited to terrorism. This policy or strategy was also focused at young Muslims who would get lured in by internet or other citizens around them that would lure them into believing and becoming extremist terrorists.
Israel lives and deals with terrorism every day. Israeli citizens are used to living under threat. David Horowitz, the founding editor in the Times of Israel, says that one of the things Israel does and other countries don't do is protect all the cafes, restaurants, shopping malls, hotel entrances, buses, and every other public place where citizens gather in major cities, with barriers and metal detectors and security guards. An Israeli citizen, in an article from the New York Times, says that we live with terrorism, but we are not fearful. It is part of our daily routine. Part of our daily routine is security checking in public places, as mentioned before, and as well as armed civilian guards being deployed to protect public transportation in Jerusalem, especially during the wave of attacks in 2016. The guards stand at bus and light rail stops and hop on and off the buses along main routes with the same power to search vests as the police do, which was at the same time, and the strategies were needed during the safety of citizens because of the waves of attacks in 2016. Another policy that was used to prevent terrorism in Israel is Israel's security fence. According to the Harvard Seal, a visiting military fellows article in the Washington Institute between October 2000 and the date of the fence completion, along Israel's northern rim, 35 successful suicide attacks in many Israeli cities could be traced from Nablus and Jenin. Those attacks resulted in the murders of 156 civilians. Building a fence makes it difficult for terrorists to come into Israel, making them travel many kilometers to circumvent the fence. Terrorists that try to circumvent the fence, it gives the Israeli Defense Force time to track the suicide bombers down. Since January 2004, 19 suicide bomb belts have been discovered, all originating from Nablus and designated for use by suicide bombers in Israel. However, the Palestinians strongly oppose the fence, claiming the fence negatively affects them. Therefore, Israel is looking for ways to address their concerns, such as relating the route of the fence and to the creation of the humanitarian office to minimize the impact of the fence on Palestinians. 2016 was a very dynamic year of times being exposed to Europe. With a total of 143 stabbings, 89 shootings, 39 vehicle attacks, and 9 attacks where explosive devices were used. A total of 58 attacks were directed at civilians and 181 attacks directed at the IDF soldiers. The stabbing, the vehicle attacks, and the shootings were a new type of terrorism because the people committing these attacks were regular people on the streets. Therefore, the IDF, the Israeli Defense Force, acted quickly to think of new strategies to deal with the new sort of terrorism, such as the IDF placed new outposts in high-risk areas and more barriers at bus stops to thwart the vehicle attacks. For the shooting, security forces believed that the weapons were created in the West Bank. Therefore, the IDF and Israel's police stepped up efforts to uncover underground workshops that produce illegal weapons. According to an officer in the IDF, going to the root of the problem by identifying and shutting down more than 40 gun-making workshops and confiscating over 445 illegal weapons, a significant increase from the 170 weapons seized. The IDF acts quickly and comes up with effective strategies to prevent terrorism attacks, and Israel citizens have adapted to the daily routine, with security checks and always being alert, and the citizens don't feel as if they're in a dangerous country because of the army and the security system.
So these are our most effective strategies that we have put together.
So for Israel, we decided increase public security checkpoints. We decided to choose this one because other countries don't have this policy, and it's served Israel well. Increasing security in public places in major cities will prevent the harm of citizens. So if there's a random attack, it's unlikely to happen. Using this policy will change chances of random terrorist attacks.
We agreed that the French Patriot Act was very helpful for France, and that other countries around the world should take it into consideration, how much like movement the government has to do with terrorism. So we think that most countries should make some sort of act or law that allows them to have more mobility, and also give travel bans for suspected suspects more easily without it taking as long to get the travel bans in place. And also something that allows the government to easily take down websites without having to go through a lot of government like processes like the U.S. takes. Yeah, that's all. Thank you.
Okay, Sharon's trying not to sneeze while I'm videotaping you guys. Sabrina, I'll start with you. Out of the reports that you guys generated for your team project, can you describe to me how someone else's report impacted your thinking about the topic?
It was interesting to see the similarities between the policies and how using different countries' policies could, in my opinion, help another country's policies. And we all kind of thought that it was funny how other countries weren't using effective policies from the countries that we were looking at. So when I was writing my report, I would look at like Chloe's, for example, because the U.S. is obviously very strict about their Air Force security and everything like that, and their background checks. And when I was looking at like the 2005 London bombings, like a lot of the bombs came from Syria and other countries, and I was thinking about how like if the U.S. did as serious Air Force security, then maybe those could have been prevented easier.
Okay, great. Ariella, can you talk a little bit about how the group made decisions in terms of what from the individual reports was put into the team?
Right. So one of the decisions we are making is that for one of our main solutions that we think is the best. For example, Israel's best policy for Israel is the security defense, because it protects them from countries that want, because like countries around Israel want to attack Israel, and America and England and France, they don't have countries around them that want to attack them. It's just some people that want to attack just random acts of terrorism in their country. So for the fence, we didn't consider it as one of the best policies for America, France, and England, because it's different types of terrorism.
David, can you talk a bit about a big obstacle that your group faced and how you guys overcame it?
I think a big obstacle we faced was having like agreed work done by the next class, but it didn't really affect us as much as we thought it would, because we'd come into class and just really grind out any work that we had to complete and still move on and like practice our presentation and not get held back. So like for us, I think even though we had some problems about like getting stuff done, we'd still come into class and get it done and then still be caught up with the rest of the class.
And Chloe, the last question, if you could do a bit more research, what else would you try to find out? What gap would you try to fill?
While I was writing my report, I found that it was very hard to find evidence to why the U.S. is very good at, I guess, minimizing terrorist attacks, because there isn't a lot of information on it, which is very surprising. as like their airport security is super strong, and they have a lot of policies. However, there aren't many articles and information regarding it, so I think I would go into depth about that, as well as probably France, because I'm super interested on their policies as well. But yeah.
Okay, great, thank you.